What's up, guys? So in this video I want to show you how you can make a post request to your Sanity studio, or basically, according to Sanity, they're calling it mutations. So if you want to directly modify any document you have on your Sanity studio, this video is surely going to help you out. So basically what we'll be doing is that I'll be sending this name, email, and bio to a schema that we've not created yet, or a document that we've not created yet. So let's head over to VS Code. I have some styles and basic styles for this. Just get rid of it. And I have a form, the TXT file that has no functionality. Yes, it's just the HTML stuff, and I am bringing it on my Astro index.astro file, and I'm also adding client visible because Astro is server side first, so we have to opt in because we'll be using some client side interaction. That's why we're adding this setting this client to visible. So what I will quickly do is to go to this schema types. And by the way, if you are wondering how I set up this stuff, I believe a card will be showing right now on how I integrated Sanity with Astro. So if you watch that video, you basically have a clear understanding on how this stuff works. So what I'll do right now is to actually create this schema to hold all this data. So I'll call this let me just call it user.txt. So this can be anything, and I will say export default, and I'll give this a name, set it to user, and we set the type to document, and I will just set the title right here to user. And by the way, I'm sure you must be familiar with Sanity and Astro before clicking this video. So basically I'm creating the user schema with Sanity. So next thing to do is to actually bring in the fields, and this should be an array of objects. So this will hold a name. I'll call this name, title as well, and the title will be name, and I'll just let this total complete for me, and I'll copy this 2 more times. I'll call this email. This will be email, type will still be string, and this will be bio. This will be bio as well. Then I'll add a comma to this to get rid of these errors. So I will save. Next thing to do is to actually bring it in. So I will say user. So I'll head back to a project, and I'll copy this and basically access it through the admin right here. So you can see this user document is being created. Again, I said I'll leave a link to a video on how you can integrate Sanity directly to your Astro project. So what we have to do right now is to come back to our code. I'll get rid of this too. Then I'll go to the form right here, and basically we want to make a post request or send all this data to a route, an API route, which we then forward those data to our Sanity schema. So the first thing I'll first of all do is to create a variable. Sorry, this should be in form data. This will be set form data, and this will be use state and this will basically hold the name, which will be an empty string, the email, and the bio. So while we have this in place, the first thing to do is to add a submit button. I just realized that I didn't have a submit button, so I'll come under this form and say button should be type of submit. I think this is not necessary, but I just want to put it, and I'll say submit. So right now, if I submit, you see that my page refresh and the data gets passed right here, which is not what we want. So I want to stop that behavior from happening. So I'll create a function called handle submit, and this is going to take an event, and this will be a form event. So we can now say event.prevent default. So we'll come to this form and see on submit, we just want to handle submit. So right now, if I go again and put some details right here, you see that is not resubmitting again. So right now, we basically want to keep track of the changes we make and update that on this set form data function. So to do that, I just pass in, I'll say the value right here should be the form data dot name, and the value right here, form data dot email, and the last one, form data bio. So right now we can't, I'm trying to add a new stuff to it, but I can't, because we need to handle it when we change, because by default now it's setting this to an empty string. So if I pass any value I pass right here, we're automatically going to show here. You can see, and I can't actually make changes to it. So I'll get rid of this. For us to fix that, I will come, let me just do that right here. I'll just call here and create a new function called handle change. This is not bad. So this is also going to take an event, and this will take a change event. So what we want to basically do is that we want to grab the name, email, basically the key and the value, so the actual name and that value that we typed in it. So here's what I mean. So I'll say I want to grab the name and the value from event.target. I'll pass the form data to this set form data function, and this should be inside an object. So I'll say form data, and basically set the name to this exact value. And we're getting some TypeScript errors saying property name does not exist event type and element. I think this should also have HTML. Is it change input HTML change input element? Let's see if this works. Okay, so this works. So we just have to set this to know that it's basically we're imputing these values right here. So once we have this in check now, I will come to this name and I'll pass in on change and call the handle change. So let's see if that is going to work. That's not still working. Okay, since we pass in the name right here, we also need to pass in the name here. So we say the name should be name, and I believe that should work now. So what we type now is get updated to this set from data function. So basically do the same for the rest. I'll copy this, I'll paste this here, then I'll change this to email. Then I will do the same for this, and I'll set this to, okay, this is already named but has a name of buyer. Okay, but we're still having a TypeScript error. Okay, so we need to add this right here. So I'll copy this and pass it right here. So say, oh, that should get rid of the errors. So now we can add different values and they're being updated. Cool. So what we want to do now is to basically send all these values to our API route. So I'll quickly create an API route and I will go to my pages folder and say API, and I'll call these let's just say create user.ts. So basically, if you've used Astro before, or if you've not used Astro rather, you can actually create API routes directly on your Astro project, just like the way it is on Next.js and other frameworks as well. So I won't like I've forgotten the syntax, so I will basically just quickly say Astro dot build. So I'll go to the documentation, and I believe this should be under endpoints. So we're making a post request. So yeah, this is what we need. So I'll copy this right now and I'll paste this right here and make sure I import this one. All right, cool. So before we move on, if I go to my astro.configure.mjs, make sure you set yours to server in order for you to make post request. So by that being said, I will just head over to my form.txx and make sure this is an asynchronous function and say const response, I'll see await fetch, and we are actually fetching from /API/create user, and the method is going to be post. The headers will be of content type. I'll set it to application JSON. Then the last thing is to pass the body, and this will be JSON don't stringify, and we just pass in the form data right here. So make sure it's just form data without the parentheses. And the reason why is because we've already destructured it right here. So if we add parentheses right here, basically we're doing it 2 times, which doesn't make sense. So I will just say data and await the response.json. And let me just console log the data. So right now we want to actually test if the endpoint is working. So I'll come back here and say let me open my DevTools. So should know this error right here. All right, so I will just type some things right here and submit. And you see this was a post, which means our API route is working. All right, cool. I'll just leave this open. Then I'll head back to this. Okay. So now we want to actually destructure the data we send from our client, and we want to send that data to our Sanity CMS. So the first thing to do is let me just leave this, because if I comment it out, I'm going to get an error right here. So I'll leave this for now. And I will say, let me just call this form. I will say await. This should be a sync as well. Request.json. And I will just destructure the name, the email, and the bio from the form. You can also log it out and check your terminal right here to see each of them when you make a post request. But since the endpoint is working, the data is actually being passed right here. So first of all, check if those values were really sent. So you can still do the client-side validation. I didn't do that part. So ideally, in a real-world scenario, you would actually check if you have the data before sending it, and you also need to check here as well. So we say if there's no name, or okay, just let this to complete for us. Then we basically, let me copy this one, return a new response, and this will be error, not message. And we just say all fields are required. Then you can also decide to add the status. So guess, can I add it here directly? So I guess I will have to write this again. So what I'll just do is to say return new response. This is going to be JSON, stringify. Now we destructure this and say error and passing all fields are required. Then I will add a comma here, rather should be here, and I'll set the status to 400, and the headers will still be, yeah, so this one works, and save. All right, cool. Now basically want to check if there's actually the data was actually sent. So if the data was actually sent, we want to now send that to our Sanity CMS. So we head back to the Mutations API, and the way it works is that there are different types. As so create or replace. There's another one called create if not exist, but we'll be using just this create. And this is the syntax on how it works. And this is basically the endpoints we'll be hitting. So we'll actually need our project ID, our dataset name, and our token with write access. So before I'll come back to this, I'll make sure we have that up and running, or make sure I have that set. I'll come to my root folder and create .env file to store those values. So I'll call this sanity token, this one will be sanity. This should be underscore. Let me just call it data set. So the data set is always production, so just say this right here, and I will say the sanity project ID. So to get the project ID, you just have to go to your astro.config file and just copy this and paste it right here. So what we need to get our sanity token, which will allow us to actually read and write data from our Sanity CMS. So go back to Studio right here, and I will click on this icon right here and click on Manage Projects. Then I'll go to API and I'll head over to tokens and I'll add an API token. So let me just give this for post request, and you can see the permissions we want. So this one is just for the viewers, and this is what is set to default. So you can only read data, you can't actually write data. So I will set mine to developer, which we basically allow us to read and write to all data sets. So you can go through the rest and use whatever you find convenient that will work in your particular use case. So I will save this, and this is going to generate an API token. So you can see this right now, but by the time you're watching the video, this will not even exist. So I'll copy this and I'll paste it right here. Alright, cool. Now that we have that in place, I can now come right here and just import them. So I'll destructure this and say import.meta.env, and I believe I called them. Let me start with the first one. So env project sanity project ID. Next one will be sanity dataset. Last one will be the sanity token. So make sure the names matches right here. If not, you're going to get an error. So what we have to do now is we have to create the, let me get rid of this, don't need it anymore. We have to actually now create the mutations right here. So I will just say const mutations. Then I will pass in the mutation right here. Why is this erroring out? Okay. And this should also be mutations as well. So mutations. This will be create. And the type. Let me check this back if I'm writing the right syntax. Okay, so it should be this square brackets that I am forgetting to add. So it should be here. Now I can now say create, and this should be a type. I will set as to user because our schema right here, if I can bring that up, say that our schema name is set to user. So make sure it matches the actual name of that document. So what do you want to create? You want to basically pass in the name, the email, enter correctly, and the bio, and also add the comma here. And I'll save this. All right, cool. So head back, and what I will do is that I will just copy this right here, and I'll say add a try and catch block. So say try catch. This should be error. Let me just set this to this now. Say console.log error for now. So this try should basically set it to response, and we await fetch, and I will pass in the URL that I copied, but I'm going to replace most of it with our own stuff. So let me get rid of this and open this down. Okay, so this will be a project Sanity project ID. This will be Sanity dataset. Okay, cool. So the method will be post as well. Then the headers, set it to, let me just copy this right here. So I'll copy this one, paste it here, and this will be our Sanity token. I'll save the file, and lastly, under the header, we'll say the body should be JSON.stringify, and we'll pass in the mutations right here. So save this, and I'll come underneath and create a variable called result to actually store our response, and I'll return a new response right here. Say JSON just stringify, pass the results, and this time the status will be 200 because it's successful. And the headers, I will just copy this one right here. All right, cool. So if there's an error, let me just make this to be the correct one. I will just copy this error stuff we did right here. So we no longer need this one, and I will paste this right here, and this should be, let's just say something went wrong, and this should be a server side error. So we say 500, and we'll leave it like so. So I believe that's for it. So let's test it out to see if everything went fine. And right here, okay, before I do that, I will need to come back to our form. The data is right here, so I will say if data dot error. So if there's an error, I can just console log something and say there was an error. Yeah, we'll just say s console.log your data has been saved. So let me just still log out the data as well. So typically I'm just being lazy by console logging everything out. So you would actually create a state to store your error messages and your success messages, but this will work fine. So right now our schema is empty, so let's try this out. Let's send this. All right, so see, this worked. Our data has been saved, and we got the transaction ID and the result as well. So if you come right here, you can see that this is being stored on our schema right here, and we can see all the data as well. Okay, you can also, let's just quickly do this part. Let me say, once this is done, we just set this to set from data and set the name to be empty string, the email as well, the bio empty string. So right now when we submit, the data should be cleared right here if it's successful, right? And this will be created twice. All right guys, so that's the end of this video. Do well to leave a like and subscribe if you found the video helpful. Till next time.